weird pop-up about the meeting in the middle of my screen. Okay. So do we know if, this is kind of changing topics a bit, I'm sorry, but we're moving on to number 5, I guess. Mark was going to have a meeting with Josh regarding the fuel cells. Do we know if that happened?
I think it didn't get set up. And so now I think it's going to be Joe. I did meet with Jim Rollins, and he is definitely interested, Joe.
Good.
And I think, so I think we just need to ask Jim and Josh, like, who should be there from like the sewage, on the sewage end. And then I don't know. And I know Josh is kind of buried right now with writing a grant or something. So maybe you and I can email, and I can email Josh and then find a time and then figure that out. Maybe someone else from your company wants to come, or.
That's wonderful. So I was kind of pleased when I saw this on the meeting agenda. I was shocked. I was happy. So let me just preface by saying, me joining the commission, and I thank you for embracing me. There was no intent to try to come sell a fuel cell. I want to help propel the town of Winsted, Winchester forward. But if there is an opportunity to help the town, we have plenty of solutions. So what I have done is I contacted our business development department. I have an 18-page slide deck I'd like to send to all of you to look at, to give you a little understanding on how fuel cells work, the pros and cons on fuel cells versus maybe some solar or wind applications, a little discussion on incentive programs and tax incentives for towns. It touches a little bit on the technology and the various platforms. So if it's okay with all of you, I'd like to send you a copy of that slide deck. And then maybe, we can have a Q&A session with my, with a gentleman by the name of Mike Palmer. He has agreed that if it's okay with all of you, if you would like to have a Q&A, he would be more than happy to dial in for a few minutes at our next meeting. And yes, absolutely, I would love to have the opportunity to meet with Josh and whomever else.
So Joe, would you want to show us the slide deck first and then schedule the meeting after that? Or
I would like, if it's okay with all of you, I think it would be good for all of you to take a look at the slide deck at your own convenience and digest the material. I can distribute it, after the meeting tonight to all of you, if that's okay, via email. And then, if you have some questions, feel free to email me, or we can have a meeting as a commission with a representative from my department, from my organization at our next meeting, to get some better understanding as a commission, and then we can go from there. Whatever the commission thinks is the best path forward.
Just for, because of freedom of information, you want to refrain from reply all. You really have to discuss things in the context of the meeting setting for, to comply with freedom of information. Sending things out for scheduling purposes is okay.
Okay.
But the conversation should take place in a public forum.
Okay.
Yes.
So Joe can send us the slide deck, but we should save our comments for when we meet next.
Yep. Unless you form a subcommittee, so long as it's in a quorum of the board. You could form a subcommittee where there's only, 3 of you discussing it and, preparing, and then you report to the full commission, but you don't want to be discussing it via email, or even, when there's a quorum, the meeting has to be posted. Just FYI, keep that in the back of your head.
Okay,
Joe,
so it is okay for me to send this to the team?
Yeah, just as
Okay.
yeah.
As an FYI, okay.
Joe, just one question for your people. I got to talk to Jim Rollins about this and a bunch of other things. And I was really interested because I didn't really know how this worked, but they do collect the methane now, and I think they just burn it and use it for heating purposes, because if the sewage is warm, it helps it like digest and everything. But so they are using it, and at one point, I don't know how long ago, they used it as a fuel for the police cars.
Interesting.
And
So,
what he said was, I don't know if this is true of all sewage treatment plants or just ours, but he said that the fuel was actually dirty, like maybe had particles in it. And so it didn't work that well as a fuel for a vehicle.
Interesting. So if I may take a couple of minutes, we have a couple of applications where we work in parallel with and have partners with water treatment facilities, like one we have in town. One that comes to mind would be Riverside, California. We take their biogas that's generated from their digester, and we use that as the fuel to to operate a fuel cell. Just to give you back it up a little bit, the way it works is that a fuel cell in general is three components. It's a fuel cell module that encapsulates all of the we call it cell packages, which holds the chemistry in order to operate it. And then you have a mechanical balance of plant and an electrical balance of plant. And what happens is you take a water source, it could be city water, we run it through a water treatment system to purify it, take that water, take the fuel, run it through the mechanical balance of plant. The water humidifies the fuel, cracks it into hydrogen, and hydrogen becomes your fuel. So there's a couple of things that can happen if you don't have 100% biofuel feed. You can blend it with a natural gas. Either way, there's different applications you can operate that. And you can take that hydrogen and you can use it to fuel cars, which they're doing in Riverside, California. And what they're doing with the heat is they're taking the heat and they're heating the digester, and they're also using the electricity that's being generated and is going back to the water treatment plant. So it's truly a trigen system in real life application at the Riverside water treatment plant in California. And we do something similar in Tulare, California.
Cool. Well, just on a
gas
brief...
is a little tough because landfill gas is a little tough because it's inconsistent, but biogas from a water treatment plant is pretty consistent. And obviously, part of our process is you got to have some sort of a cleaner or a filter, if you will, to filter out contaminants in the fuel to make sure it doesn't damage the fuel cell. But these are all good. These would be good questions to have a conversation with the appropriate people from both ends. I know just enough to be dangerous.
Is there any like fuel cells or things like that going on like within Connecticut, or is it primarily?
No, we have many installations in Connecticut. We have a microgrid system in Woodbridge where we're operating their town hall, their police department, I think a school. We have a fuel cell. We have a 14 megawatt fuel cell that's generating power to the grid in Bridgeport. We just commissioned a 8 megawatt power plant for the Navy under the CMAQ program, state of Connecticut. We just commissioned one for Yaphank, New York, in Long Island for the Long Island Power Authority that's going to the grid. There's different applications. We have them in Connecticut and we have them in California. We just sold a fuel cell carbon capture, I believe, for the Torino airport under the SNAM project in Italy. SNAM is the biggest natural gas distribution organization in Europe. And, we're going to use natural gas to not only generate electricity, but do some carbon capture as well. So we have different platforms. It's not just electricity. We could, obviously electricity is one of the components, but we can produce hydrogen that's usable as a utility. We can produce heat as a utility. We can produce carbon dioxide as a utility, for beverage companies, for meat processing plants. And we also have technology to pull carbon out of the atmosphere. But I think one that—
So these fuel cells, fuel cells, I'm sorry, I'm just learning about them, so I don't know that much. But
That's
how
fine.
do they compare with like solar power and wind power? Like you mentioned that before. And
so solar power, you need sun. Wind power, you need wind. Fuel cells, they operate like a generator, like generator for your home, right? You have a fuel, you turn the generator on, you hit the button, put it on load, it runs. It's not stored energy. You need to have fuel. So it can run whether it's raining, snowing, sunny, wind, not windy out in all operations, and the footprint is much smaller than that of a solar farm, for example. We can get 1.5 megawatts in under 20,000 square feet. Versus how many acres does it take for solar panels, for example. It's not. I wouldn't say that it's a substitution. I think that there's opportunity in the world to use all technologies together to optimize and get the best solution, for the application. I don't think we're a substitute. It's not comparing apples and apples with solar panels and wind. There's obviously, applications that are better with wind and solar than fuel cells. It's just, you got to make sure that you pick the right solution for your application. We're just an alternative.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add really briefly for Renee that the Stop and Shop on East Main Street, I think it's a competitor of Joe's company, but also Eastern Connecticut, like Connecticut's really a big manufacturer of fuel cells. And I've heard the casinos run them also, because basically you can run forever and not have power outages, and police departments and that kind of thing. They're super reliable, I believe.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, there is definitely there's benefits of having a fuel cell, but it's like everything else. There's challenges. You got to have a fuel source. You got to make sure that you have a sustainable grid. If you don't have a good grid and you're trying to make a microgrid, it becomes challenging. They're not cheap. You need to qualify, and it's best to qualify for tax incentives and programs for the state of Connecticut, which is available. Luckily, the state of Connecticut, passed legislation in favor of fuel cells. There were those purists that didn't believe that a fuel cell was renewable because it used natural gas, but we've done some work and lobbied to make those changes, and Connecticut is becoming very favorable. We have a molten carbonate fuel cell. We're the best in the world at that application. We also have applications for single oxide, electrolysis, and things like that. We are not a competitor for Bloom or Plug or anything like that. It's a different technology, different application. We may call it a competitor, would be Doosan, which used to be UTC, which owned that fuel cell on East Main Street on Stop and Shop. But they do smaller size, smaller scale plants. It's interesting stuff. I think you all find the slide deck I'm going to send you very interesting.
I have a question or two.
Mm-hmm.
What's the smallest fuel cell that's available now?
Currently, right now, what we're offering at this moment in time is a 1.4 megawatt fuel cell.
And that would be more than their sewer plant would need to operate on?
I don't know what the requirements or what the draw on the sewer plant is. That'd be part of the discussion. That's above and beyond my knowledge. Like I said, I know enough to be dangerous, but there's different things. If you generate more power than the fuels than the sewer plant would need, you can do other things with it. You can use a load bank, set it to the grid. You can have a charging station for cars. There's many different things you can do with the extra power. We're building a fuel cell here at our Torrington manufacturing plant. We're in the process. We're pouring concrete on Monday, and the plan is to do testing with it first, and then our next phase is to power our manufacturing facility.
Cool.
Is that the one in the technology park?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yep, we're right at the end. Any other questions?
Are we
This
done
is
with
very
number 5? Will, I think number 6, that was you, the office paper recycling.
Yeah, the town hall, they don't recycle paper, do they?
Yep.
Is there a recycling plan in the town hall?
No,
So, being on a recipient of vast amounts of white paper, we could, is there I've been told there is a way to recycle white paper in the town hall, that there is a way to sell it and create a profit.
Right, we're working, Jim Rollins is supposed to find a place down at his Raleigh Street garage so that maintenance here can, take what, we're limited by locations for, it's a lame excuse, but that, I'm just giving you the story, that, that we don't have the location for it, they haven't worked out the logistics for it. It would, don't refrain from putting pressure. If you want to send a memorandum to us to pass that along, that this should be a priority, it would be appreciated.
Because there's a lot of, the boards all get copies of
The paper.
blueprints. We get tons of paper, and if they can go back into a recycling stream that generates some revenue for the town, that would be a fantastic thing.
You're not going to get an argument from anyone here.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Wondering about the process. I don't know what kind of process it takes to be able to recycle paper.
You take it to the landfill and you separate it out. I'm not sure where the town, we have a dumpster out here for, regular trash. And we have a private contracted hauler that picks it up like so many people do. What we don't have in terms of a contract with that hauler is recycling. And we haven't, and there's a lot of paper.
Right, yeah, and even, is there some sort of like initiatives that we could start where you would do like two-sided copying, so that way you can cut down on the amount of paper that's being used? Like,
yeah, and I think
that would be helpful too.
Yeah, most folks try to do that in the name of conservation, but we still, it's not like Will says, the commission, understandably, they want the 24 by 36 set of plans. So, I mean, each application generates, and we're just talking about our one little corner of land use. There is a lot of paper that is not recycled.
So Pam, is there even single stream recycling at the town hall, or is that everything just into the dumpster?
Negative.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just going to ask that question, Amanda. Single stream. I mean, what is the opportunity here just to recycle paper to sell it, or is an opportunity here to recycle everything and
just like you normally do in your home?
Just like we normally do in our home, and single stream is a really good way to go. We may not make any money off it, but it goes back into commerce. And it's for reuse. We've had some pretty good success here at the organization. I mean, if you make it easy, people will do it, right? And
no, everyone here complains. Everyone, the employees are,
Well, is there anything that we can do to bring more attention, or
did you
like
say you
just
wanted
call
to
the
send
town
it?
manager? Yeah, call the town hall and say, hi, I heard.
No, and send an email. If you want to send an email that the Conservation Commission discussed it at their January 13th regular meeting and would like more information about what the town is undertaking in terms of recycling.
And would it just be
Okay.
for town hall? I mean, even the schools and so forth can probably.
I'm only talking about town hall. The schools may be more better than we are.
I know at
This
my
piece of
school,
paper right here is for one application that just went to me. There's 6 people on the board. Each one got a stack of paper like this for one application. And you use it for a night, and then what do you do with it?
Right. Are things becoming more like digital in terms of technology and using that, or not really?
We would, I mean, but some folks are set, they prefer the paper. And during a meeting, folks don't bring their laptops, like it's good to have, sometimes they scale it,
In some ways, it's a lot easier to review a site plan on a big piece of paper, and people don't have monitors that large. So that's part of it. There's.
Is there any IP, is there any confidential information that you would be leery of just throwing into a white
We have
recycling bin?
shredders. We
Okay.
have shredders. Yeah, we don't throw away. No, we're careful stewards of stuff that should be shredded.
Okay.
That's not an issue. It's just that, there's, like Willie showed you, there's,
Stacks and reams of paper. Got it.
yeah.
Do we have a potential buyer of this paper?
How about just recycle? I mean, I don't know if that would be, and storing it, I know that there's a lot of priorities to set. So, but squeaky wheels get the grease.
Noted. Okay. Jen.
At my school, we didn't have recycling for a long time, and honestly, it turned out that we just made a phone call to the hauler. And at first they brought us the blue bins, like people have at their house. And then we got to a point where we needed a whole dumpster, but, and I work with the students and they go and collect it, and throw it in this recycling dumpster, and it works pretty well. And it honestly, no one had called the hauling people and asked them for one.
And space is a premium here. Like we don't have, but we do have another lot in between the Bank of America and the next house on. I mean, the employees can park at the Bank of America parking, and they can also park at that little municipal lot. Sometimes you'll see police cars in that lot, and I suppose we could use either site for an additional dumpster, and it would just mean that someone's got to haul, one bucket up there, put it on wheels and take a walk. I mean, that might be if and that way we wouldn't be waiting for Public Works to find us an appropriate spot. We could just put it up there.
Who is
Right,
the
Mike?
current hauler?
Yeah.
Who's the hauler for your trash?
I don't even know. I think
Jim
it's
Rollins
one of
will
the
know.
two.
I can shoot him an email, but
Usually, waste haulers, they will accommodate a single stream recycling and provide the containers for you at no charge.
Yeah, that might be a wiser approach.
Yeah, because you can, instead of a dumpster, you can even get, I think they're the 96 gallon, like the tip bins, like your garbage pail. That's what we started with at my work. And
But we probably need one of those a week.
I know we outgrew that very quickly, and they did give us a designated dumpster just for the single stream, but
You really
might be a good
that
start.
call to the hauler?
the
Who
biggest
initiated that
issue
call? Sorry.
with
go
the
ahead.
recycling, the biggest problem, even with having something smaller at town hall, is where we put it.
Mhm.
Right. That's the hardest problem. It's the reason why we don't have it now. Is we somehow apparently lost some of our storage for one of our dumpsters here at town hall before, and then getting a new one down at Public Works has required a gas line deconnect. So Jim Rollins has been struggling with the gas company to deal with that.
But I don't know
and
that we've talked about Bank of America, or not even, and even if, folks are reluctant to put any, start storing stuff at Bank of America because we're not sure of what that ultimate use is going to be. We definitely, we have space and capacity at that other municipal lot.
That's fair. That's fair. So who would we need to bring that to discuss that idea then? To propose.
I think Terry, town manager, to talk about first of all, who's our hauler, and then call them and see how much for another dumpster for that. The dumpsters can be pricey, and maybe that was a thought of why putting it at Public Works and having our maintenance crew bring it down there, for that might be why we were going to put it there, but that's why, how many months ago have we talked about that? And
Well, I mean, we could just have them, like, maybe the town manager could just call the company and see what our options would be, and if it would be more money, like, I mean, we could, go from there.
yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if they charge you for the container. They definitely charge you for the pickup and the tipping fee. And I can't imagine you'd be filling up, a 5-yard dumpster, all that. Well, then again, when I saw the stack of paper Will had, and hold on, there may be a lot more tipping than you think. But yeah, I would definitely second the recommendation here to have, our town manager contact our waste hauler to see what our options are. I think that would be the best bet. Recycling is a law in the state of Connecticut. I don't know how it works in municipalities, but in private sector, public sector, it's a law. It's enforceable, and we should take an opportunity right here in our town to lead the charge, I think.
I agree. Maybe we should explore both options, the single stream and the white paper for profit.
Sure.
Will, did you have any more information on who
No,
that
not
company?
at this time, I don't.
Okay. Maybe for next meeting, you can give us,
Okay, I'll
Some-
look into it.
okay, thank you.
So are we gonna email Josh, or are we gonna try to do the legwork, or what did we decide on that?
Should we maybe have a subcommittee for that? To do, well, and actually Pam, you would know, how much of the legwork can we actually do on behalf of the town? Like if we're speaking on the town's behalf, like.
I think peppering with emails to town, I hate to be steering you towards bugging the town manager, but just, reminders. I know personally, you have a lot of priorities, and, the ones that are reminding you of them are the ones that, okay, let me do this. I gotta, there's no shortage of stuff to do, but so I would think that you might want to start off, at least until your February meeting, between now and your February meeting, send a communication to, Josh and, relay to him this discussion, and then discuss it again at the February meeting.
Okay.
And maybe the report at the February meeting will be to update the commission on, where our new recycling center is.
Okay.
The
So
other
is there somebody going to be sending out that email to Josh, or?
I can take that, Renee, or you can if you'd like.
I can do that.
The other thing to think about that's a little depressing at my school is, as a custodian, when recycling starts, that means they can't just empty a bin into a bin and then into the dumpster. So they have to make 2 trips, and sometimes it can be hard to get buy-in by the person who's actually doing that part of it.
I have in mind a spot we could do it where you need the buy-in from the employees, not to, to walk through recycling, so everyone keeps a WV an empty paper box in their office, I really think you'll have the buy-in from the employees.
Awesome. That's good. Cool.
It's been noticed that we don't have recycling. So, you have your trash can for your regular, wet trash, if you will, banana peels or whatnot. And I mean, we have someone who collects banana peels here for her compost.
I was just gonna say, we're gonna have a compost initiative
Yes,
before you
we
know
do.
it.
Yeah, and she'll take soda cans or water bottles, and, because right now people are just putting them in the garbage.
Is there a custodian at the town hall?
Yes, yeah, especially with COVID. We have a new employee, Luis, who does an excellent job. And, and Jen, to your point, he's really great, and wouldn't
cool.
have much to say. And right now he's coming around and emptying everyone's trash daily. Like, he may be able to reduce the number, do that every other day, so that, because I can imagine, I know what you're talking about when you start to add more duties.
Right.
Not with this guy. He's really great. He's terrific.
Cool.
So an opportunity maybe to, in addition to people having their personal trash baskets, I would imagine by their desk or their workstation, you put a recycle container, a 3-gallon recycle container in the same place, and when the custodian picks up, he does a trash run, then he does a recycle run. The easier you make it, the more people will follow it. It'll be bumpy in the beginning, but once people get the hang of it, it'll be like it's normal.
And you have the women, not women, all of them with Fitbits and Apple Watches trying to get their steps in. So it's a good excuse to get up from your desk and go walk your recycling to the second floor where we put the new collector site.
Perfect.
Okay, are we good with recycling? I think so. And John, I think this was your topic, the gas power plant.
Yes, I've been thinking about that a little bit, and I would like to see a gas powered plant for EV vehicles. It could be even run by fuel cell, or if we had solar in an area, we could power it with solar as well. Some other states are doing that, especially in their state parks. They're putting up solar, and they have solar panels, and then they have the charging right underneath it. And they're working it that way in some areas, like Colorado's starting to do that. I don't know what Connecticut does. I know there's been a lot more overhead solar in like malls and stuff, and some schools are even doing it. But I don't know exactly which ones. I just look at the internet and see, pick a town and, see whether they have it or they don't have it. Manchester seems to have some. Manchester is also getting a net zero school, courtesy of the state too, for elementary. I was wondering too if that Bridge Street project, if that's gonna get off the ground, and if maybe the part of the building in the front that has the new style brown windows, if that is capable of handling any kind of a solar. It looks like they redid the roof and redid the windows. And if that would, maybe you could put a L-rec or a Z-rec in there for maybe 100 panels, 150 panels or whatever it would fit on there. If the roof would take it, I'm not sure. And that he could get some income off of that until he can clean out and figure out what his environmental situation is in the basement. I don't know.
Which building on Bridge Street? Bridge Street.
The first one on Bridge Street, as you coming across from Main Street, it'll be the one next to the river. The back one is already rented. But he's got a fence in front of it, so you can't go walk in underneath. And that's the area where you would have the most contamination. It's been about 30 years since I worked in there, and it was like a trash hole back then. But they must have all kinds of fluids in there and other stuff in there, and contamination from machine shop use. And I don't know what it's going to take to clean it up, because I haven't been back there for probably 20 years. So, but anyway, there's one section that faces Prospect Street in the back area, not the front, not the first 50, 60 feet, but the back area. It has brown windows, new style brown windows, and it looks, if you look at the roof, it looks fairly decent from the package store side. And that's where I was thinking, that area there. And because I know he's going to have a big expense, so if he could get something going in there and have an L-rec and sell the electricity, because he doesn't need electricity in the building right now that I can see, or if it does, it's very minimal.
Oh, and it sounds like it feeds in with Michael's idea of it's not on Main Street, but Michael has south facing, just like those buildings, like your idea of getting someone to come in and try and put solar panels on as much of Main Street as possible. That building has a similar facing south, the way where John's talking about. Is there anything the Conservation Commission, I really like that idea. Is there anything we can do to help you, investigate that?
I don't know. We'd have to figure out, they came to the town meeting back, I think, around the first meeting in December. And I haven't seen where they've come back since. So I don't know if they've had an update with the town manager or not since that meeting on
Yeah, I think the
on
board
how
is
they're
like,
gonna- Huh?
supported their grant application.
Right.
They've got a good friend in Torrington's economic development director who is helping them seek funding. You're talking about the group of 5 or 6 residents that.
Right, yes.
Okay. And are you talking about the bank? Where are you talking about them doing this?
Over on Bridge Street. There used to be several companies in there. Dial-Up End used to be in there. Controls used to be in the back building. And a couple of machine shops used to be on the ground floor and everything. And those are all gone now. Just the back building is rented out. And that's kind of like craft shops and stuff in the back area.
That's the
I'm
Mad
not
River
talking about
Lofts,
that
right?
part.
Yeah.
What, Will?
Mad River Lofts?
I think that's the back building, isn't it? Or is that the front building?
That's the
No,
back
it's-
building.
All right, is that the front building? Okay, that's the building I'm talking about. The first one that sits on the corner on Bridge Street and the Riverside.
Okay.
And then on
Michael,
the other side.
Sorry.
But if you go back after about 60 feet, you'll see where it's a nice roof. And they put in the brown windows with like tinted glass or something in there. So a couple of the windows are still broke because kids smashed them, but nobody's doing any work in there. And if that part of the building is structurally sufficient to hold up a solar panel for, I don't know, however long they need it to, because I don't think they want to tear that section down. The old piece they want to turn down is in the other side in the back. It's half fallen in now.
Michael, is that something you're still interested in, like finding someone who would think about putting solar on the south facing Main Street buildings? Or
Absolutely. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I think that's a really great thing that the town has going for it, just in terms of its physical geography of Main Street. The biggest issue, of course, is that you have to get buy-in from the property owners. So now, of course, we do have on the assessor's page, right, all that information is publicly available of who owns the various buildings of Main Street. But I think from what I did when I did some investigation of what would actually be required in bringing a solar company in to do an assessment of the buildings, generally they're only going to do that when invited by the owner of the building. And there's slightly different tax credits for if you are a residential building or if you're a commercial building. And not all companies do both. So what we would need to do, and the Conservation Commission could do this formally or informally, is contacting property owners on Main Street and saying, the Conservation Commission is looking at an initiative to put solar into the area and put solar, could call it some initiative like a Sunlight Main Street, tossing something off the top of my head, right? And it's like, we're trying to bring solar panels onto the buildings on Main Street for a bunch of reasons. Would you be interested in this if we were to get a free solar assessment to come in, right? And if you could get a whole bunch of those businesses to do that, then I think you might be able to, get them all to sign some sort of a common letter that goes to the solar company that says, we're all interested in doing this. Would you be willing to come out And maybe the town could then work with and facilitate and say, yeah, we have all these businesses that are looking to do this. We have all this interest. Here's all their signatures. What could you do, right? But I think the problem is you need that individual buy-in because they're not our buildings. So we really can't say, yeah, just go in there, just like go up to the roof, see how it works. Because as you know, as much as that would be great, I feel like we'd be breaking a couple rules there.
Maybe when we're meeting in person, but we could kind of divvy up, like maybe already between us, we already know a bunch of, or we could each take a block and go and talk to I don't know if it became something we wanted to work on.
Yeah, I mean, Winchester is a community of about, it's a community of about 10,000 people. Odds are between the 7-ish people on this commission, at least one or two of the owners of buildings on Main Street. That's not impossible. I mean, a lot of people know George Newjame. I don't know if he owns any of the buildings, but he doesn't. Pam's shaking her head. But there's people who own those buildings. You probably know some of them. You might be able to just casually bring it up in conversation, like, what do you think about solar on your roof? Because I'm on the Conservation Commission and we were thinking about that, and just bring up the conversation. There's absolutely nothing stopping you as Conservation Commissioners from doing that. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to put together the list of the properties on Main Street in this stretch and who owns them. That's easy to put together. I can put that together for the next meeting. That won't take long at all.
Okay.
Michael,
Also, don't the roofs need to be in really good condition to be able to do that? I'm just thinking like, if, I don't know what the condition.
That would be part of the
some
solar
these older
assessment.
buildings.
Yeah, that
Okay.
would be part of the solar assessment. So that would be one of those things where, when the company came out, that we would be able probably, and I don't work for one of these companies, but from what I understand from when they've done these before, they assess like, do you need to add any sort of reinforcement to the roofs to hold the weight of solar panels? And for some buildings it might be yes, and for others it might be no, depending upon how they were built and how old they are. So I can't speak to that. But I can, thinking about how some of these buildings are, I'm guessing some of the taller brick buildings over on the, west side of Main Street might be a little bit more suited for it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure until they come out and actually do it.
Michael, will they need access to the other mechanicals of the building or just the rooftop?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet, right? Because presumably if they're going to be getting the solar, if they're going to be getting the electricity out, they're going to want to hook in somewhere, but that would again be part of the solar assessment. But that's a good question. I'm going to write
Because that
that.
might, interfere with someone's willingness to participate and allow access, depending. You never know.
Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, on the Beardsley Memorial Library, that parking lot, is there any way that we might be able to work with them and possibly discuss it with them?
Entirely possible.
Lot?
That's entirely possible. I don't personally have connections there, but I do happen to know that the former town manager is a member of the board at the library. So we could talk to Bob and say, hey, the conservation had this initiative. Would you be willing to maybe just bring it up to the board members or the people at the library, see what the possibility of getting some feelers out there is, and then once we get that kind of early response, we can find out if it's even viable and go from there.
Yeah, because I've always thought that would be a good place to put charging stations too, on the street side of the parking lot up there.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, it's public. It's not too shaded if you wanted to do solar panels in there as well. But I'll next time I see Bob, I'll see what he thinks.
Yeah. We could also use some more down to Bank America. He was nice enough to get us 2 before.
Well, do we know what's going to happen with that building?
I think the short answer is still no of what's happening with the Bank of America property, because I don't know that any proposals have come forward on what it's ultimately going to be. So It's sitting in limbo. That's where we are.
Because I think I heard something that somebody wanted it for like a teenage rec center. And that might not be where we want to put more charging stations. I don't know.
I think the rec board was talking about that, weren't they?
That could have been, yeah. But that brings us nicely into our number 8 on the agenda. Pam, would you know if there are standards for signage? And what exactly is preventing us from getting signs advertising this charging stations?
There is absolutely regulations for signage, but directional signage is generally not included in, and the signage is very generous. I mean, but you're not talking about putting it on the building. You're not talking about putting a freestanding sign. What type of signage are you thinking of?
Well, I think directional and freestanding, just to at least alert the people that are on, like, say, for example, Main Street, like, oh, I can turn right and look, there's the charging station.
I was under the impression that there was something like, I thought the cars had something that said where the charging stations are, or is that just the Teslas? You know what I mean? Like the car itself has like a
little homing device for the
yeah,
charging
like, you
station.
know how they have, yeah, and it shows different places where there's charging stations along your like route or something.
Clearly,
I'm
none
not-
of us have electric vehicles, huh? I don't know.
Yeah, those are usually in electric vehicles, and they're put out by the different companies like Electrify America and Tesla and those types of companies. ChargePoint, they have their own map. So if you went to ChargePoint, you could see the map of their charging stations across the country and things like that. But the signage that I was thinking of, they have a parking sign on the I think it's the route now where it used to be the corner of the healthcare building on the corner of Elm and Main Street. They have a sign that points to the parking lot or says parking, but they don't have anything that says electric vehicle parking. And I haven't got anything in paper, but I talked to somebody in the building and they said, sure, we don't think that the owner would mind if you put EV parking sign on top of that one. So because they're pointing down that street, and then we could have a little sign maybe just off the sidewalk towards the Bank of America building that says EV parking. We don't need much of a sign, just 2 lines, EV parking. And people will get the hint. But those are pretty well used anyway.
Yeah.
I don't say today they were because they had other things going on, but normally. And,
So if they're pretty well used, then do we need the signage? I'm just,
well, people coming into town might not know it. The people that are usually using it now, they've been using it, or they spotted it maybe a year ago, and they know about it now, so it's really not a big deal. And they weren't being used for the first couple of months up to the medical center on South Main Street. And because I had them put those in too up there. And they put them over near the heliport. And people weren't parking there, but now people are all, I've seen everything there. A Volkswagen ID, a Tesla, a Volvo, Nissans, everybody's parking up there. And it doesn't matter whether you're plug-in or all electric, you can still charge up there.
I kind of like the idea of having a sign for the people who don't own them and to think like, hey, I could park here if I had an EV. It's almost a way of convincing people like, we have them, you know, we're Winston. We have this. I don't know.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad either.
We still, I don't see anything anymore because I don't leave my house anymore, but do we still have those maps of downtown that
Oh,
that
yeah.
people pick up at the stores?
Yep.
Maybe we can put the locations on those maps.
That's a good idea.
That is a good idea. We talked about updating those maps
Mhm.
a few meetings ago.
Yeah.
So who would we talk to about updating the maps?
I think it's EDC who made them. Is that true, Pam?
Yeah, that's the story.
Who's the chair of EDC right now?
Dennis Dressel?
Oh, I could ask Dennis. I could email Dennis.
Yep. I'm
What
pulling
is
out,
EVC? What is that?
The Economic Development Commission.
Oh. Thank you. I emailed Josh, by the way, about the contacting.
That
you
was
all.
fast. Thank you, Renee.
Real-time action.
Maybe we could get Jim Rounds to put a charging station in down there and get a lightning truck.
I don't know what the electrification of the municipal fleet is going to look like. I know the state has electrification of the state fleet as a big goal, but I have no idea what the actual town plan is, if any, for electrifying town vehicles and what the logistics of that would look like for charging.
how about school buses? Weren't they talking about doing getting electric school buses? Am I remembering?
No,
that?
I remember that vaguely, but I didn't look. I noticed that and then I nodded and stopped thinking about it. So that's,
And so there is the that sign. So that looks like it's on a light pole. And so it might be that we would need
Yeah, the only police department I know of that has electric vehicles is Westport right now.
I thought that the state was gonna purchase a bunch of electric buses, school buses or something, or they were gonna send, I don't know. I remember hearing or seeing an article or something about it.
I don't know about that, but Seymour and Middletown have electric, they have, each one has an electric bus right now. And the bus was 288,000 and this federal government put in 125,000.
It's a lot. It's expensive.
Yeah, but you want the bus to be able to run for both morning and afternoon. So,
That's for a school bus, John?
yes, a school bus, what are they, 72 passenger?
so if you're talking about putting an EV sign right here,
Mhm.
Yes,
I think it's Eversource that would have to be a permission would have to be sought from Eversource.
all right, they have on the side of the building, you can't see it from here, but on the side of the building going down the street, if you were looking at it from the other direction, they have one on that building.
That corner building then?
Yeah, that corner building. It used to be the health center. It's now the Root or something.
Yep, I see it. Yeah. Yep.
Maybe start with that one because it's easy.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I think they have you get like 2 square feet per linear foot of frontage. And I don't think they've exceeded it. And that might be something. If we, if someone can prepare a spec on the size of the sign, and maybe a rendering of what it would look like. And then we can put, someone in touch with the owner of the building. That's Impetus Properties, Aaron Landini, Landini is his last name.
Could Public Works put up a sign at the Bank of America if we got information about that?
What size sign? Because you have a lot of competing interests. Like we've talked about, like the rec board. People are going to get nervous that someone has been chosen. For that building. You're just talking about something simple. Simple is a directional sign if that's what you're talking about, that might, at least temporarily while the building sits empty, that might be an easy sell.
Yeah,
But
I
again,
wouldn't say,
you'd want to come up with a spec and the size and the location.
Okay.
I can reach out to Impetus Properties, see if they would be willing to let us hang something on their building.
Didn't they
Would you
just-
need to see the spec for the sign
Yeah,
first? Pam?
yeah, because that's gonna be their first question. Well, how big are we talking? Where are we talking? What's it gonna look like?
Okay. I'll get some info over to you first then.
I don't know what size it is on the end of the building there on Elm Street and in Main Street. But all we'd have to do is put maybe a little bit higher and 2 lines EV parking above it. Or maybe just EV, because there's already public parking on the sign, I think.
Yeah,
I could take a picture of it, send it.
Okay.
So the EV station in Winston, that was put in by the town. If you do a Google search trying to find an EV station, say if I was coming through town and was needed to get my car charged, it's impossible to find it. But there's all these, like, you mentioned something, Charge Point or something, John? That
Right.
comes up.
Right, but Charge Point uses a Wi-Fi app, so you're connected to your Wi-Fi. We don't have these on any network. These are just, they're put by the town and
Ah.
nobody pays for them, but with the town.
What about the one at the hospital, at the medical building? Who pays for that? Is that free?
Yeah, that's free. Hartford Healthcare pays for that.
And do you have to pay them to charge, or is that a free charging?
That's free charging.
Because neither, I spent 2-3 minutes here searching, and the best I can come up with is a news thing with Winston put in a EV station. There's just
Yeah.
nothing that puts you on a map that says it's there.
yeah, and I don't know how you get that.
So I got,
Partner with somebody.
so I just went onto my like maps on my iPhone to look for EV charging station, and I came up with 2 places only from Charge Point. Is that?
Yeah.
And
That's
one
it.
one of them is on 811 Burr Mountain Road. It's not even I don't think that's it. It's
Probably
in
a Tesla station, right? Like someone's personal charge.
And then there's one on 1446 East Main Street in Torrington. That's the only 2 that show up in our area for Charge Point. It's like if you were, I mean, most people would look on the app on their Maps app, right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
To find that. So how can we get it onto, like, how can we, show that it's there on the maps if they were going to open the app?
I don't know.
I don't know. I could probably contact the Northwest COG and see the lady over there. I think it's Mrs. Mullen or Miss Mullen. It used
Yeah,
to be.
she doesn't work there anymore. Oh, no, Janelle, right?
Janelle, okay.
Yep.
And because they have some of them on there, but if they could get it on their directions maps.
Renee, what was that called again?
The charging station, it was called Charge Point, and that was the one on Burr Mountain. There was one on East Main Street. There's an EV Go. They say there's one in like West Hartford, like they're not even showing the ones that we have in Winston at all.
No, they don't.
The one I was looking at showed the one at Lombard Ford, and it showed a couple of others. If you look at Tesla, it'll show the one in Canaan. And it shows, there's one that shows the one on Main Street at City Hall in Torrington.
Do you know which map you were looking at? Like what?
No,
app
I don't remember now. It's been a while.
Okay.
Plugshare.com has it.
Huh?
Plugshare.com has us. When you put in free charging stations near me,
Yeah.
It's the first hit, and it's free EV charging station map, and it's plugshare.com. And when you zoom in and you put it shows us. It's got record of the one on Center Street.
Okay,
It's called plugshare.com.
Yep.
thanks.
It'd be nice to see them on the Maps app on the iPhone, or you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know what it takes to get them on there though, but
We'd have to ask a marketing person.
yeah,
You
it
know.
seems like a lot of people would use that to try and find it,
Right.
I mean, that's what I would use if I had an electric car.
Right.
I haven't heard anything when Tesla's gonna put their ones down Stop and Shop yet.
Well, I can go to ChargePoint and see if we can find a contact to see how we get on their maps. And do that for our next meeting.
Okay.
All right. We got a lot covered. Do we have anything else that we want to add before we wrap up?
I did want to kind of go back to this just really quickly. We could put it on the agenda for next month. We don't have to discuss it too much today, but the Sustainable Connecticut, I don't know if we've actually put in some information on that yet. And, I just want to make sure that we're talking about a lot. And I just want to make sure that it's we're actually writing it down. So, when we do the Sustainable Connecticut, when we, it's there somewhere. And I'm not sure if we put any information into that whole grid that we have, or.
I personally have not. I don't know if anyone else has.
I opened the grid and I can't seem to I don't think it's editable. So I don't know if Pam, I know that you had sent it and shared it with us. And then, so I guess what's the process in place for because I started to look at different sites that were is it brownfield sites or something?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I got. Yeah.
I know you started that list, and I wanted to actually be able to show that we made a list and we did that part. And I'm not really sure how to go about doing that. So I guess kind of filling out that whole Sustainable Connecticut kind of, sheet would be helpful if anybody has any information about that.
I think that we should call that a task for the next agenda, and so that we can report that it's been done. Let that be our goal, at least, to have that done for the next meeting, February 10th, it looks like.
Is there any way we could have a Google Doc where we just add stuff, but then someone like Pam or Michael kind of formalized it and put it in the right form? I don't know.
That's what I was kind of thinking, a place where I can put it or put an attachment and say, listen, I'm working on this part,
I mean, we might be able to have a Dropbox of some kind, both either electronic or physical, if things need to be in physical form and then scanned. That might be able to be set up. I don't know precisely whether or not we could just use a shared Google Drive, or if we would actually want to use some service like Dropbox. I'm not sure what would be better given the restrictions or requirements of any of the file types that we would need to drop in for any specific requirement for sustainable CT. But either one could work, just having a common folder for Conservation Commission. I don't know if that, everything in there would necessarily wind up being FOIA-able. But if the only things that are put in there are files that are common anyway, I mean, I don't know, that would be a problem.
Yeah, all the information the information that I found was just online by doing basically Google searches. So it's all like public information already that's out there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we can, I'm sure we can set that up. It's just, yeah, I'll do some thinking about what that would require and what would be best. And if there's anything specific, I'm sure I'll have 5 minutes at some point while walking around working on something else where that'll go through my mind and I'll figure it out. So I'll put that on my list of things to do.
Okay, so who puts that information in? I mean, are we responsible for doing that, or is that someone else? 'Cause I know Josh was talking to some people about the different initiatives we've already done and things we've already met, like.
In terms of like actually taking information and putting it into sustainable CT,
Yes.
I don't know that the town has had the conversation about how to translate that from gathering the information of what's already been done to putting it into the form. I know I have an account on the Sustainable CT website, but I don't know that it's my job to do that. And I don't know that the town wants me to take that on as a responsibility and take that time away from enforcement of other tasks. So I think that's a discussion that we probably need to have internally in the planning department, potentially with the town manager, of who's actually supposed to be finalizing the uploads to this as we push forward on certification. Because that's a very good point. We can get all the information we want, but if no one actually crosses the finish line,
right.
it doesn't do anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just thinking about that, this past month. So, but maybe it's, definitely something we could talk about at the next meeting. I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time with it. So.
Yes, we will definitely add that to our agenda for next week then. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make
a motion.
to adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor? All right,
Aye.
thank you. Have a
Aye.
good
Bye,
night.
everybody.
Thanks,
Have a great
Amanda.
one.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jen. Thank you, Pam, for setting this all up.